You ever just feel off? You know, like you're going through all the right motions, work, family, all the responsibilities, but deep down, something just isn't clicking. Well, today, we're going to get into that exact feeling, what it means to be spiritually out of sync, even when life on the surface looks totally fine. This is all about finding your alignment in a world that is just constantly pulling for your attention. So let's start with this core tension that I think so many of us feel. We are incredibly productive people, right? But we're not truly present. From the outside, everything looks like it's working just fine. But inside, there's this growing feeling of being disconnected. It's such a weird feeling, isn't it? You're showing up, you're hitting your deadlines, handling your business, nothing is on fire, nothing is collapsing around you. And yet, there's that little nagging voice in the back of your head that says you've been running on autopilot, just going through the motions without actually being there. And this is where that strange tension really builds. To the rest of the world, what it looks like is that you are productive, you're active, you're consistent, you're doing all the right things. But what it feels like on the inside is unfulfilled, spiritually kind of unaware, and just disconnected from the whole thing. I think this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures that feeling of being a spectator in your own life, you know? You're physically there, but your spirit, your actual focus, it's somewhere else entirely. So, what is actually causing this? Why do we feel this kind of spiritual drift? Well, the real reason might not be what you think. It's often something a lot more subtle than some big crisis of faith. You know, ancient wisdom traditions often point to a similar idea. Take this passage from the Psalms. The person writing this wasn't describing some perfect, problem-free life. They were talking about a state of internal alignment. The key here is the word presence, not just being physically somewhere, but anchoring our attention. That fullness of joy they're talking about, it's found in that deep awareness. So here's the crucial point, and this might actually be a huge relief. If you're feeling disconnected, it's probably not a sign that your faith is weak or that you lack conviction. It's much more often just a problem of a misaligned focus. You can believe something with all your heart, you can act on it, but still feel that disconnect if your attention is constantly being scattered everywhere else. And this drift, it doesn't usually happen in some big, dramatic moment. It's way sneakier than that. It happens slowly, through the constant barrage of modern life. There's just too much noise from notifications and media, too much urgency, with everything demanding an immediate reaction. Too many inputs flooding our minds, and way too little stillness to just be. Okay, so we've kind of diagnosed the problem, but what's the solution? How do we actually find our way back to our center? The good news is, it's probably simpler than you might think. Let's look at the shift that can bring you back into alignment. And this is so important. The answer is not to add another thing to your spiritual to-do list. We confuse more activity with true alignment all the time. But the real goal is to simply and intentionally return your attention to where it actually belongs. So here are 3 really practical ways to do that. First, reintroduce some intentional stillness. And I don't just mean empty time, I mean aware time. Time to just be without producing or fixing anything. Second, reduce the noise. Seriously, not everything that screams for your attention actually deserves it. You gotta be a little ruthless about what you let in. And third, begin your day anchored. Start centered before all the pressures and reactions of the day start pulling you in every direction. You see, this all comes down to one core insight, understanding the massive difference between just being busy and being in true spiritual alignment. And this is why it's so easy to miss. You don't suddenly stop believing in what matters to you. You just stop noticing. You keep functioning, you keep moving forward on the outside, but you're doing it all without that sense of fullness that only comes from being truly present and aware. So I'll just leave you with this. As you go about your week, maybe check in with your alignment, not just your performance. Ask yourself this really powerful question. Am I present or am I just productive? Because those two things are definitely not the same. And understanding that difference, well, that can change everything.